Welcome to what are we calling this now?
How was that worse than last week?
Sorry,
Have you been practicing?
No, that was way worse.
Try again.
That's hot.
I've not been practicing. I apologise. I don't mean to let the Calligram lads down.
It's all good. It was pretty wavy.
That was garbage.
Well, consider this my official resignation.
Hey guys, welcome to the 5 Fun Film Friends Films podcast with Isaac, Jackson, and
If you
Noah.
keep saying that, they're gonna think that that's actually the name of the podcast.
Is that
the
not
goal.
the name of it? I thought that's what this was.
Tell me, I know the game I'm playing. I want results.
Hey, well, segues. You know what's cool about the 5 Fun Film Friends Films podcast? There's 5 people here.
There's actually 5 people this week.
Wow, guys. So this voice you're hearing, this is Noah, and that is Isaac over there. You can't see what I'm pointing
I'm
to.
Jackson.
Yep, that's Jackson. And we have 2 very special guests. First, we're going to be referring to him a lot as like Gus or Little Gus, but go ahead and introduce yourself, Gus.
Hey, I'm Angus. What's up?
And the next person here is Mr. Calligram.
That's Mrs. Callywell to you.
Legal name Calvin Sim.
Yeah.
And Calvin and Gus are both here to talk about their work on Flesh Ivory.
In post-production.
Their work in post-production.
Also on production, but primarily post-production.
Yeah. So, can you guys explain what you did, what your roles were?
Well, I kind of specialized in editing, so it was a lot of me and Isaac sort of in a room, looking at a computer, cutting together the movie. It's pretty great. I had to have sex with the director to get on the shoot. I don't know if you guys had to, but that was one of the prerequisites for me.
I was wondering how long this would take.
I'm kind of a nepotism baby on that show.
Can we put that in?
I think so.
I think that's funny. I think that's funny.
That's what Calvin asked.
It was
Isaac
consensual.
invented
Like, he's a good-looking
Yeah.
dude.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, Gus, you go.
I wasn't involved in the production of Flesh Ivory, but I was approached by Jackson and Isaac after the initial first cut to do a remix of the sound.
Cool.
Remix is the key word here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And did you also have to have sex with the director to do this?
No, the director had to have sex with me.
It was pretty good. It was a nice change.
So can we start from the top of post-production? Is that fair?
Yes.
So the film is all shot, everybody's got... Well, you have to go and do pickups, obviously.
Yeah.
And that sort of happens in the middle of post-production?
It was a month or so after principal photography, Jackson.
Yeah.
Pickups. And we were lucky. We didn't have to do any pickups per se. We were just given an extra period of time for shooting, which a lot of the productions used to reshoot things that they had issues with. And we just used that period of time because we couldn't get a particular location that we needed to get in principal week. So we shot our last couple of scenes in that week.
Gotcha.
Which was really good. Essentially, Calvin and I started editing as soon as principal photography finished. Mm-hmm. And then we basically just waited until we had the last few scenes, which was an interesting period in time because it's like trying to put together, 2/3 of a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
Without the full context, know, and like I hadn't even seen performances from the last couple of scenes. You know, I had to make sure there was consistency in pacing, consistency in tone. Tone was easy. There's not a whole big range of tone in this film. It's pretty, it knows what it is. Yeah.
Were the scenes that were done in pickups from all over in the film, or were they just sort of like, what were the last scenes, first scenes? Which scenes?
It was...
Bus stop, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bus stop.
Which is sort of in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and we had the last couple of scenes of the film we had to shoot as well.
Okay. Well, at least that is...
Without saying what it is.
Maybe that's a little bit easier, because at least those are towards the end, right? So
yeah.
you don't have to pace around them.
Yeah.
Calvin and Isaac, how do you two actually work together to edit the film? So what actually happens? Is there like, Calvin, do you like put together an assembly and then show it to Isaac, or do you both sit there the whole way through, or how does it work?
Does Isaac just tell you what to cut and when, and then hold the whip behind?
Yeah. I was in a gimp suit for most of the time.
It was really hot. We had to bump up the aircon because Calvin kept passing out.
We were breathing like so heavy in that fucking... No, but like me and Isaac have known each other for quite a while. Like I met him sort of towards the beginning of film school and have been pretty tight since. So it was really, really easy to edit it. It was pretty unique in that sense. Like, and a lot of my other shoots that I've done. I was sort of by myself and I'd hand in and edit every now and then. But for Attraction, because Isaac knew the footage so well in the story, I just kind of, it helped that we were both in the room together and we just sort of cut it together. And yeah, there were long hours and heaps of cuts that we had to give to uni lecturers that would then shoot them down.
Yeah.
Going to those edit, I don't know if that felt that way for you guys, but every time we walked into one of those fucking meetings, it like... every time.
We were ready, and I'm sure it got frustrating for them as well, and it is what it is, but it was frustrating for both of us, because I know damn well there were a few weeks where Calvin and I had what was almost the final cut, and they were telling us things like, take out this character, cut this scene.
Remove characters.
Yeah, remove this. Remove Lana, the Sky's character.
From the movie.
Isn't that fucking wild?
From the movie. Isn't that wild? Yeah.
I'm just thinking
they said,
about...
take that out. Take out the scene where he wakes up and ignores his mum, and take out the bus stop scene, because we don't need that.
So what does the movie even become with all that stuff?
Exactly. It becomes, and Calvin and I have said, it becomes an Oedipus complex movie. It becomes, that's what it is. It's about Will and his mum. And then he imagines his dream woman after having an argument with his mum.
So watching Attraction...
Like, the context is...
Watching
the
Flesh and
tone's
Ivory...
way
I don't want to,
different.
give away the plot of Flesh and Ivory as we have this conversation, but removing Lana's character, for me, removes, the motivation to begin the story and the resolution of the story, which,
it's ridiculous.
I'm kind of, I've seen some weird artsy movies, and I could make a case that a movie doesn't really need a motivation to get started or a resolution, really. You can have a movie that's constant chaos and have it end as it begins and all that sort of stuff, but that doesn't make any... for this movie, I don't see that happening.
It really needs it. I really... For this one, I'm super keen to experiment in the future, but I know that I wrote this. I added a lot of elements, from, obviously, as you do, from not real elements, but just ideas that I'd experienced in my life from it.
Sure. So that stuff's very important to you.
Yeah, and I portrayed it in a way that I thought could be interesting on screen, which is why I liked incorporating things like dream sequences, because I'd never tackled that.
Sure.
But the film it's cut in a pretty straightforward narrative structure. There's the
it's very...
he begins, he goes on his journey, and he has his realization. It's very straightforward, and
it's
if you
linear,
cut out Sky,
for sure.
totally linear,
Yeah.
and it's easy to follow, for sure. And that they pretty much, by taking out Sky, they wanted me to take out the beginning and end of the film.
Yeah.
As you
Yes,
said,
very much. Because you couldn't even end the movie then, could you?
Yeah, no.
To hear that kind of...
What is the ending?
Yeah, what's the
Without
ending
Sky?
then? That is the strange... I don't...
Yeah.
So I heard a lot of interesting feedback from Slate, from things, and from sitting in theaters from other people's movies they didn't even work on. But I think that's the strangest piece of feedback I've heard, is remove an entire character.
Yeah. It's she's only in there for a little bit at the beginning, and then there's a little bit at the end.
Well,
I feel like more of the conflict is with the mum.
A little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end of a 20-minute film.
Yeah.
Is a quarter of the movie.
It's like dead set 6 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, right. It's a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
More than a quarter. Yeah.
I didn't even know where you'd start it, where you'd end it. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. We just said, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for your feedback.
Of course.
And I'm sure they, some of the feed. I understand them getting annoyed with us, but I know for a fact that we gave them the same cut multiple weeks in a row and just acted like
it was a different cut.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't
So
have
you could
remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm all on board with that one. That's fine. Sometimes you honestly, I've definitely had experiences where I've edited a thing and somebody has said to me like, yo, can you speed this up a little bit or slow this down a little bit? And I haven't, and I just handed it back the next week and they've been like, oh, it really works now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's entirely perception. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just all it.
Yeah.
It's a placebo.
Mhm.
And
It is.
We probably fooled a couple of them. I know we didn't fool a few of them.
Okay.
Who were
Yeah.
pretty salty,
Yeah.
which was reflective in the mark.
A lot of it was,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess if I learned anything through that whole like situation, it's just be kind of it's your film ultimately.
Yeah.
Like it's Isaac's vision.
Yeah.
We had to stay kind of steadfast in it and not be challenged, especially late in the game.
Mhm.
I don't know. If we had made those sacrifices, the movie wouldn't be as good as it is. So like it kind of was good in a way because it affirmed our vision in the actual film and went, no, we can't remove this character because this is what she means to the story. This is
Sure.
what we gained a greater understanding of the story itself from like
Yeah.
being able to justify it.
Mm.
Something that I think some people who would have been watching those millions of cuts probably wouldn't have picked up on. I don't think they were quite putting up what we were putting down. But,
Yeah,
whatever.
And it's an interesting thing, just going off what you were saying, Calvin, with sometimes even if you get the advice that you don't think is productive per se for the film, it forces you to ask yourself the question and you do realize why things do really need to be there.
Yeah.
And it just becomes more clear if it
Mhm.
wasn't already before.
Yeah.
If anything, it was totally backwards. We got told that our film wasn't working multiple weeks in a row and we just realized via the justification that it actually was working.
I think it's definitely worth saying. I've met a lot of like young filmmakers, young directors, editors, the whole bit. I don't even want to say young. I met a lot of directors, period, who are so self-assured in their vision, I suppose, for what their film is going to be from the page to the editing room, that they're not even willing to entertain an argument or a piece of criticism at a certain point. You can just tell that like anything that you say to them about any sort of input, it's just going straight past them and they're not hearing anything that you have to say, which I think is really not a great way
Yeah.
to be thinking about a movie.
You have to consider it.
Yeah, and as long as you can earnestly present an argument to yourself that your intent here is, in your opinion, better than whatever criticism you're getting, then you should run with that because that's the better argument. It's not about the fact that it's your argument, it's about the fact that this makes more sense. And if as long as you're honest with yourself about that, then you need to do that. What are you going to do? Take a bad idea and put it in your movie? That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got feedback to remove characters, which is huge. What
Yeah.
else did you get?
After shooting too. So it's not like we
Right.
can...
You can't go back.
No, we can't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we knew that we had to use our pickup days to film these couple of scenes
Yeah.
based on the final draft of the script,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
had all of these characters in it. So
We might have said this in the first episode, but you guys were very clever and just allocated more time to shoot the scenes that you knew you were going to shoot in
Yeah.
the first section of your filming, and then you just used the reshoot days to just shoot additional scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very clever.
And we used POC to, rather than having pickups,
Mhm.
we figured that our first attempt at difficult camera techniques could be POC,
Yeah.
and then the good attempt is first week, there's no pickups afterwards,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
was good. Yeah, helped us out a lot. Calvin, so obviously it's been a while since we made the film, but when we started production and you had the script and you're the editor, what are your thoughts heading into like this story, or just heading into your first like short film with a pretty big budget?
It seemed like a very big steak to be cut up. There was a lot kind of going on in the film. And it has a very distinct style that I think was we had to kind of find that in the edit as well, the flow of it all, because very easily a film like that could become very stagnant if it's not edited right, which it was daunting, but like I think what helped a lot was, there was obviously a very clear vision. I think it was a really good experience, and I think it was really good to have a director in the room there to kind of help steer the story in that way.
Sure. So did you ever do editing sessions without Isaac in the room, or was it always you two?
Probably a few, I think. I know I'm speaking
The
for
odd
you, but
few, yeah.
VFX, absolutely, because Calvin knows far more than I do about that. So
Right,
there were a
right,
few
right.
special effects shots where Calvin completely took the reins on that, and I
Mhm.
gave a general description.
Okay,
Mm.
well, that makes sense because at least you can sort of do that individually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're like pacing the scenes and stuff,
Yeah.
like for that sort of part of the editing, you're both in the room doing it together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
A second set of eyes really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any order to it? Like, are you doing one scene at a time for like a couple of days, or doing one scene and then move over to the next? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I remember we started with a very intense sort of dialogue argument scenes towards the beginning of the film. I believe that's sort of where we started tackling it. And yeah, I think that's where we really found the rhythm of the film a lot.
When we started pacing it in the opening scene of the film, which is where we began the edit, we just started editing chronologically.
Okay.
Because it wasn't overwhelming, but we knew that it could get that way just because we had high expectations for ourselves and for the film very easily. And so we just thought, one scene at a time, as chronologically as we can. We'll build it from front to back, and then we'll go back and start going out of order from there.
Gotcha. But at least the pacing of the first scene sort of indicates the pacing of the next, and so on, right?
Yeah.
Talk about how you managed the fact that we had multiple scenes where we weren't allowed to cut as the editor, and balancing that with the fact that the pace in a dream sequence where we had one shots is obviously different to the other scenes, but one you're allowed to cut and one you couldn't.
It's got to fit that kind of style that those one is, So it was a lot of pauses, a lot of very natural conversation. It wasn't quick cut at all.
Right. So you try and pace it like realistically.
I was trying to pace it like a drama.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
If we had sped up a lot of those dialogue scenes, and if there had been fast paced conversations, they wouldn't have fit the very natural flow of the film and other points in the movie. So it had to feel like one cohesive project. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I think it ultimately kind of shines through. Like the dialogue scene with his mum, it's paced almost like kind of like a play or something like that. Like you hear a lot of the pauses, the back and forth and all that. It's not a very quick cut conversation at all.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it feels fairly natural, I think, going back and watching it.
Can you do tricks in editing at least where you can see... So here's an interesting thing about so pacing a film realistically in an edit. As you're editing a single, obviously, you can hear the other actor say their lines as you're listening to the lines of whichever actor you're listening to who has that single, right? So do you ever take that pacing and use that pacing, or are you finding that you have to slow that down even to fit the oneers? How are you doing that?
Sometimes we would have to slow it down a little bit. We'd often cut out sections where the other actress or actor would be talking, and there'd be kind of a slower pause. We try to manipulate that kind of timing as much as possible to make the conversation have these kind of breaths in between it, like it would in a natural conversation. You hear the actors kind of reacting, and it gives everything a sense of realistic kind of weight. A lot of people could have kind of minced down that dialogue scene with his mum in particular in the end, which I think is my favorite scene of the film. A lot of people could have edited that to be a lot faster and a lot snappier, and I think with some of the feedback we got from industry professionals, they were kind of wanting it to be that way.
Yeah.
But if we had done that, it wouldn't have fit the pace of the rest of the film. So yeah, we had to manipulate a lot of kind of the pauses and things. It was quite funny. A lot of that's in mute. A few of those kind of pauses is actually Will reacting to the next line, but
there's a lot of frustration in the opening scene with Will and his mother, and it's very easy to see an element like anger in a scene and think that intensity means a faster pace, or to be louder.
Sure.
And we didn't like that. And
I completely disagree.
Yeah. So we because obviously the context is it's Will talking to his mum about something that is very taboo in the family, and it's not an easy conversation to have. So they're not happy to throw these jabs at each other, but out of discomfort and out of insecurity from their respective standpoints, out of their insecurity they start to lash out a bit as it goes on.
And those lash outs, they really stand out because you can tell a lot of it's very calculated, their responses to each other. You can tell his mum's walking on eggshells and he's almost walking on eggshells at points, but then he'll interrupt her at certain points. It kind of draws your attention to it. There's a part where he interrupts her very clearly in the film, and it's almost like a shock when he does. Yeah.
You can see Angela surprised. Well, that's the way we cut it. I'm pretty sure we got it that way on the day, but just to pace it in a way that emphasizes it was really important. To us, because it's really cringeworthy. The idea that he's having a go at his mum about particular things, but the life that they live is it's awful.
Yeah.
Gus.
Yep.
My friend, our savior.
Jesus
Not-
Christ himself.
Yeah, not even exaggerating. Tell us what you think of when we approach you with the film, and feel free to be brutal initially because we can chop it.
I think it was actually Joel's idea originally, wasn't it? I think it was on the Bloom set. Joel said to Jackson, "Is Angus going to be fixing the sound for Attraction?" And that was
It was not Joel's idea, was it?
that was the
I am
first I
struggling
heard
to
of it.
remember this.
That guy, that freaking guy.
He's the fucking Lord and
He
Savior.
honestly
It
is.
all comes
yeah.
back to Joel.
I'm trusting Gus's recount over
yeah.
here.
I genuinely don't remember that.
If it means anything, you would have been our top pick anyway. Wow. Joel was working on another feature and he was still saving Flesh Ivory. Well, not another Noah's feature. Yeah.
That's so funny.
What a guy.
I believe that about Joel though.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so wait, did Joel approach you, Gus?
No. Joel said to
guy.
Jackson on the set of Bloom.
And you overheard it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, this is the first time hearing of it. And I was like,
Right.
and I was like thinking in the back of my mind, thinking in the back of my mind, because Jackson's like, yeah, hopefully, but Jackson hadn't mentioned it to me, and I was like, should I just say no if I get asked?
We're so glad you didn't.
Yeah.
Because Jackson and I are not sound designers.
No.
So I had seen Attraction as it was then for the first time in the screenings, and I remember thinking that the sound design, like, it needed work.
To put it lightly, yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so when I was asked, like, properly to work on it, I said, I think it was to Isaac, let me watch it again and I'll get back to you. I asked Isaac what he was looking for, as in more creative license in the sound or just to fix it up, level it out a bit better. And Isaac pretty much said to me he just wanted the audio leveled and clearer, basically, was the main thing. And so this is an interesting project for me because it was the first time I'd ever worked on sound on something that I hadn't been involved in pre-prod or production.
Gotcha.
There we go.
And
So have you previously been on set recording the audio for the sound design?
just about every time.
Wow. And that's very helpful for you, obviously.
Yeah, and not just because I know, okay, I made a mistake here, I know what I need to do to fix this in the future or whatever. It's just that I wasn't there for the production, so I don't know anything that happened on the set. I don't know when there's an issue, what caused that sort of thing. And I don't think there was much in the way of sound logs or anything that I had access to. So when
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So for
Yay.
those listening and who don't know, can you explain what sound logs are?
Okay, so sound logs are basically just a sheet that you record notes of each take. You label it for what the shot is, the description of what's happening in the shot, and then any notes of noises that occur or things that are said louder, for example. And it's really helpful in the sound edit. And I think we had some, but there was it's always that thing that when there's an issue, you go to look for that particular take in the sound logs and it's just not there.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that happened a few times. So I think I ended up not using them.
And if you know what caused the issue, then that assists you in fixing the issue.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I do sound design, usually I build it from the ground up. But this time I'd been given something that was already almost complete, and I had to work with that.
Mm.
There was a lot of denoising that I had to do, and it's just something that happens. It's not. People try to blame it on the sound recorders, say, "Oh, your audio is noisy. It's your fault for not recording it better." But really, what it comes down to is location.
Right.
Because if you're in a noisy location, there's nothing you can do about it. And the locations weren't noisy as such, but there was always noise in them. It's pretty much something you can't really get around.
Mhm.
It just happens. So yeah, that's what I did mostly was just remix, level, denoise the dialogue, and then in terms of the actual sound effects and stuff, there was a fair bit of Foley, but the actual sort of creative effects for the dream sequences and whatnot, I only only did a few of them. And so the main creative aspect for me on this project was basically just in the room tones and the reverbs of separating the dream sequences, the locations and stuff like that.
I remember, and Isaac will remember this too, when we first gave you the project and you had to listen to it. I believe you pressed 2 buttons and the audio, the dialogue specifically, was already like, 50% better?
Yeah.
It was astonishing.
It was literally F. He
Pressed F.
Yeah. So what I did was I highlighted all of the audio for the entire project, and I pressed F, which in Pro Tools is the fade key, which adds an automatic fade to the in and out points of each clip. And basically what that meant for this particular project was that there was gaps in the audio before where there'd be a drop off.
Yep.
And just adding that fade to the start and back of each clip just softens that drop in and out, and it's less.
That's incredible. to think that you can do that.
You got to to turn the car on. You got to put the key in. You got to take your foot off the brake. Okay. Yeah.
man.
No.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning that Isaac and I have, well, at least myself, I think so for you too. We don't know anything about sound design.
No.
I don't know anything about sound design. So our previous sound designer, we had to trust them with what they were telling us about the project and what they could fix and their ability to do so. So never was the F button mentioned.
No, I didn't know about the F button.
You didn't know about the F
There were
button.
already plenty of Fs in the chat
It's like,
after the public screening.
it's like the clitoris. It'll.
I wish I didn't have to censor this podcast.
Do not censor that. No, that was perfect.
Wait, what's that?
What?
Fuck.
Okay, so you faded the audio in and out.
Yeah, I faded the audio in and out.
Yeah.
And Isaac just about started crying.
Would you say
it
that
was happy tears? It was
Yeah.
happy tears.
Would you say that was like a basic kind of aspect of sound design? Or like, is it like a?
Yeah, I put that under first day basics. And, yeah.
Oh god.
Christ.
Yeah, Isaac just about started crying, and he was just like laughing, but you could tell he was in pain. And then he just said, "Okay, but don't get me wrong, I do want more things done to it, just that."
Yeah.
I think we can say real quick as well. Obviously, Gus saved the film with 2 clips. The initial, before we went to Gus, when you have a graduate project, they have an event where the parents and family and cast and crew can all come, and all of the graduate projects get screened in a theatre. And Jackson and I had Jackson's.
We're aware this is only audio, but Jackson right now is in the fetal position.
I can feel it.
Yeah,
PTSD.
His face is in his hands right now. Jackson and I, obviously, and everyone on the crew, was pretty proud of the film. Very keen for people to see it. You know, I was talking it up a hell of a lot to Mum and Dad. Yeah, I couldn't wait.
Calvin and Gus, were you two in the theatre when this happened?
No, I skipped
I
saw it kind of like, nah. I stayed home that day.
Supportive
That's big
crew.
brain.
sorry.
Were you there?
I did go to a screening,
Okay.
but I think it was the last screening. So
Okay. It wasn't the same one we were at,
no.
but the same version of the film.
Yes.
So you did see the version with the broken sound.
Yes,
in
that was
theatre.
the first time I had seen anything of the movie, and I was very keen to see it because I was like I'd seen Isaac's pitch when we did the pitches, and I honestly thought Isaac's was the best out of all of them.
Yeah.
And so I was really keen to see it come together. And and then I went and saw it, and I was like, the film is good, but it's people that don't understand the process of filmmaking are not going to like this movie just for that simple fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
That there's just this noticeable dropping in and out between every take of audio.
Sure.
There's that old adage about sound is 60% of a film and
Of course,
vision is
yeah.
40.
But it
He's
is
like
though.
first.
It really
It
is.
really
though.
really
It's
is.
true.
People are more likely to watch an ugly looking film as opposed to an ugly sounding one.
Totally.
We're more hyper aware to it.
Yeah, one of them is impossible to endure. The other one is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
and we know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Watching
Oh, yeah.
that, I don't know about you. I was receding into my
I
chair
remember
that
that.
entire time.
So I was sitting in this theater next to you both. I remember this.
We were in the front row.
Yep. Actors
Yep.
came in.
Yep.
Yep.
We had to clarify it with actors. My dad came up to me, hey mate, that's you know parents do that lovely thing that they do because you're their child. They hey mate, that was great. Just what about that? You know I don't have to say, I don't want to say it, but what about that? And I just went, yeah, Dad, look, listen, that's not what Jackson and I signed off on. I don't know what happened. Pretty much. We get given the initial mix by the sound designer, and then we get it taken into the theater, and we get the theater mix where it's mixed at a mixing board with one of the heads of sound, and Jackson and I sat in on the meeting along with the at the time sound designer, and we signed off on a film and a version of the sound that sounded pretty damn clean.
Yep.
It sounded great in all of the revisions, and
Oh.
seriously, because we were shocked that the version that got screened sounded like it did, because the 3 versions beforehand, we were in on 2 or 3 studio mixing sessions, and then we watched it over with an awesome lecturer named Stuart Tyrrell.
Oh,
I'm
he's
gonna give him a
great.
shout out. He's awesome at Griffith
Yeah.
Film School.
I like that guy.
Yeah, take a bow, Stuart, wherever you are. I hope Brisbane the movie is as good as I think it will be. And when we got there on the day, there were all these dropouts that Angus talked about, and Jackson and I receded into our chair because
Hold on.
yeah,
This part of the story I don't know. So
yeah,
the audio, you thought going into that theater, the audio was going to be clean.
yeah.
So you
the
discovered-
the audio we signed off on, it sounded okay.
Okay, so you discovered that the audio was ruined.
Yeah.
at the screening.
In the middle of
In
the screening as you're watching the movie.
we were so
I didn't know this bit. I thought you knew you were walking into the gates of hell, but you just, it was sprung on you.
Jackson and I, we couldn't wait. We sat front row.
I remember.
We were so excited. We thought, we've got a cracker of a film here. I
Okay,
can't
so-
wait for all my peers to
So
see
what
it. All the
happened?
crew.
So the obvious question is, what happened between that?
The
and-
only thing with what we know happened, it's all hearsay, but we reckon an earlier mix was the one that got handed across rather than the final mix that was approved on in these mixing sessions.
Right.
Something silly like that.
That's
and
terrible.
And it's, that's what got published.
Okay, so here's another weird question, which is, why didn't Gus over here get the mix that sounded okay?
We would love to tell you.
But you can't say.
We don't know.
Oh, you actually don't know?
I don't know where that
so
is.
you don't know where that mix went?
No,
When-
seriously, we
no.
don't know where
Yeah.
it is.
What's it? You do a couple of mixes in that
Yeah.
studio with Steve.
The third final cut.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you show up in the theater. It's a completely different
It's
mix.
completely
and
different.
you don't have that final mix anywhere saved.
We don't know where it is. We know it was the sound designer. We said, you have this? Yes, great. You're here with the lecturer. You guys have this?
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll see you on screening. I can't wait. This is so good.
I think
miscommunication.
sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's probably worth mentioning that the same thing actually happened to me with the graduate film that I worked on properly.
Wow.
So what
This
they
is a common
Griffith
experience.
is
Conspiracy.
so what happens is they say at like all through the year they mention the theater mix session as the last chance to touch the sound design.
Okay.
Once that's done, it gets passed over. If you touch the sound design again and then pass that over as submission, that would just replace all of the audio with the audio from the cinema mix. So when we did our cinema mix, we tried to automate an EQ effect on one particular sound,
Okay.
and we didn't realize it got stuck, and it did it for the entire track. So
Wow.
yeah, so everything that was on that track got like really, really muffled, and the higher frequency sound effects on that track were missing from the film, and we didn't realize till later. So I went and remixed it, and I got permission from Steve, the sound lecturer, to go back in and fix that up basically. And so then we handed over the stems, and we said to the admin there that we had got permission from Steve. There was an export issue. It's now fixed. We haven't touched anything else. Can you just, these are the stems, don't replace them with the original ones like you keep threatening to do. Went to the sound mix, to the screening, sat there. One of the effects that it happens to is like the first sound effect in the movie, like very first one. And I was watching for the first time in the theater, and the sound was not there. So they had replaced it with the original sound mix, which was broken.
Why?
Jesus.
Yeah,
This must
Do
have
we know why?
I wonder how many films this happened to.
probably a lot.
Okay. There you go.
What a joke.
I do remember sitting through other screenings and thinking that other people's audio was also bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't just you guys.
It was just not finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Anyhow, after that palaver,
Yeah.
Gus takes the sound, fixes it up basically, and got it to a point where you guys were happy with it.
Yeah. It was the final film we were hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had it, and we knew the location of it.
Which is great to know.
Yeah.
To know where the good version of your audio is. That's
to
great
not
know.
only have your film, but know where it is. That is it's a key element.
Oh man.
Geographically speaking. And once it was done, Jackson and I were pretty proud of it. We pushed it to some festivals, and we didn't hear back. And
How many festivals?
how many was it?
About 6 or 7.
It was about 6. Yeah, we used a good portion of our final budget for distribution.
Right.
Was on applying to these festivals that we got knocked back on.
Yes.
And so, Attraction sat dormant for a while.
After you pushed it to the festivals
Yep.
and it didn't get in anywhere,
Yep.
did you do anything else to the film past that point? Like technically?
Not initially. We were happy with it.
Right. So you were set on it.
Yeah. Jackson and I was still, even though we got knocked back by festivals, we were still adamant that we had a good film. And we still think that we had a film that could definitely be competitive in the Australian short film market.
Sure.
So we kept pushing it around, and we sent it to people, not just willy-nilly, but to people that we met in the film community, and it got handed across a couple of sets of hands, and it eventually landed in a set of hands that thought that he could give us some good advice with regards to distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those suggestions was a rebrand of the film, so a new title. And I was always happy with Attraction. I thought that I'd known for a long time why it was called Attraction. I was pretty set in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across, I won't go into it too much, but I came across a painting at Brisbane's European Masterpieces exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the painting that I looked at the most. I thought it was really beautiful, and it had a really cool idea visually as well.
So do you want to say like what the painting is and what the poem is?
No.
That's
I wasn't, when I listened to the initial sound mix, I wasn't disappointed. I was devastated.
Nobody listens to it. If you know, if
That's
you're
a really good
listening-
link.
If you're listening to this and you know where that's from,
Get off your fucking phone.
What is it with you? Who gives a fucking shit how long a scene is?
so Isaac's not going to tell us where you got the
Yeah,
painting from, which is
sorry.
fine. But you found a new title.
Yeah, I found a new title. I really liked it.
Mhm.
I thought it was, I thought it said what was in the film. There are a few happy coincidences between parallels that I had between the painting and the film that could justify me naming the film Flesh Ivory,
Sure.
even if you don't know the reference to the painting.
Yep.
So we were very lucky in that regard. We gave it a new trailer. We cut it down to half its original length, and we made it a bit quicker, but we also made sure that we wouldn't give anything away, which was a concern with the original cut of the trailer and the new one.
Mm-hmm. We are also doing a new pitch book to
Yeah, we are.
liven it up a bit, get the rebranding on point.
Nice.
I'm just glad that we managed to find someone who could give us some good guidance for distributing the film festivals.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that it? Is there more? I want to ask, like,
Us talking about getting to just... Well, yeah, we can talk more.
I can cut these things in if you want. Do people have, like, stories about sound editing or editing that you actually want to say that are, like, funny? Like, you have anecdotes or something? Anecdotes?
Woolworth's buffalo wings are the shit. Me and Isaac are like living on them.
Yeah.
Hey Isaac,
That's
what are
what we
buffalo wings made out of?
Clearly buffalo.
Yeah.
I thought they were made out of buffalo's wings.
The flying animal, yeah.
Yeah.
Just for context.
No, I'm just gonna cut this in.
No, we're cutting this in.
Guys, I'm not a moron, alright? I know this story paints me as one and it's very fair. I don't like
Unironically, you thought it was buffalo?
Dude, this story is a very good argument for me being a moron and I don't like it.
We're putting this story.
Please.
It's an excellent...
share.
Oh, no.
It's a great conclusion to Flesh Ivory, I think.
Yeah. It really says a lot about my intelligence as a director, doesn't it? Yeah.
So, Isaac and I went out to dinner one night and I ordered a side of buffalo wings for us.
Was this while you were editing?
No, this is literally
this
just like
is
a couple
weeks ago.
Oh, now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago we went out to dinner and I ordered a side of buffalo wings and Isaac was having some and he basically at some point he said something like, "Man, I can't believe these are made out of buffalo." And so Isaac does this thing to me all the time where he says something ridiculously stupid and then looks at me and it's impossible to tell if he's taking a piss or not. And I thought he was doing that again. Like, I genuinely thought he was having
Because
a go.
how could you not think that it was
Yeah,
a joke?
exactly.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so he just keeps staring at me. And then I looked at him and he's like, "What?" And I was like, you're messing with me, right? And he's like, "No, I'm dead serious. Like, buffalo's really tasty."
And I think I genuinely might have said some shit like, "It's incredible how this tastes just like chicken."
Oh my god.
What did you think they were?
I was like,
Buffalo.
dude, because
Surely
it said
buffaloes.
buffalo wings, and I was like, okay, well they've just called them wings because everyone just has chicken wings. Even if obviously buffaloes don't have fucking wings, and if they did, they wouldn't be that small as well.
So
I just thought it was
What
like.
bone in a buffalo
Yeah.
is this?
What part of the buffalo
It's
is
the dick.
Well, I mean, yes. Well, I mean, tell me what's in chicken nuggets. You know, I just thought it was Woolies putting out friggin' meat, and then I was like, okay,
Buffalo toast.
sure. And you know what's crazy is I remembered when we had this discussion, Angus. I'd flashed back like Ghost of Christmas Past to at least 6 or 7 conversations I had in uni, where I asked that question in Woolies while we were getting buffalo wings. I said, "Isn't this is the most roundabout way to get meat for wings for such a little snack?" And people always laughed. And I thought
you
I
were
was
joking.
like, you guys,
joking.
and I figured everyone is ignoring this question.
So,
It's a very obvious answer. It's like really, really obvious.
I didn't know why we call buffalo. I know it's because of the sauce.
I think it's the town, right?
Yeah.
Town in America? What the fuck? But
So-
like you know what this buffalo sauce are going really well. The chicken wing.
so you've been saying this for years and nobody corrected you until
From 20,
Gus had the
from-
balls to do so.
Because
From
why
early
would
20s,
anybody correct you?
everyone thought I was kidding for 5 years.
So like Forrest Gump.
Fuck.
I'm very capable adult.
He's saying that as he's drinking from a Woody Toy Story mug.
You can't see this, but he's wearing a bib and he's like drooling a lot. We've been walking him through his
Yeah.
We've had to change his diaper twice already.
I'm sitting on a high chair right now with my little
Legs dangling.
Yeah.
I think he's shitting himself right now.
Oh man.
We like to have fun here. Yeah.
Oh god. Alright. I think that was an apt conclusion.
Yeah.
That can go out. It's okay.
No, we're leaving that in. Yeah.
Okay, Jackson, can you give us an outro with like your
Oh, we should-
Actually, no, you say what we're doing first with the rest of these. So
Yeah. Guys, thanks for listening to this series about Flesh and Ivory. We're also going to do a similar analysis in structure. We're going to look at the pre-production, production, and post-production of Bloom, the feature film that Noah wrote, directed, and edited. And that'll be in a series in a couple of weeks. 3 episodes, just like these were.
there might be some episodes in between. We don't know yet.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk with Taylor Glockner, and I'm sure he's going to talk about Bloom in that episode, but it'll also be a acting at large episode.
Sure.
So tune in for that. It's going to be great. If you like harmonicas, if you like young dudes trying to figure out the film industry, tune in, because that's all we've got.
It's a quality pitch. That is all we've got. Thank you to our guests, Calvin and Gus. You've been awesome. Thank you for detailing your work on this film. Thank
Pleasure.
That's gonna come out sounding so rough.
That sounds terrible. Let's just somebody else do that.
Thanks for coming along to the podcast, guys. Angus, Calvin.
Sounds even
We're getting
more
paid, right?
Yeah.
I did this shit for free, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. It was a big trip from across the hall for me.
Calvin, think about all the exposure you're getting right now.
My OnlyFans account has like triple this.
Send a link.
I love it. Yeah, I want it.
We'll plug it in the description.
Yeah.
Alright, bye guys.
See ya.
See you
Hasta
later.
luego.